Is now the right time to wholesale real estate? There's a lot of uncertainty in the economy and in the real estate market. A lot of consumers are drawing back their spending habits and they're becoming more hesitant on purchasing a home. Inventory has increased in the real estate market, but the demand is not matching that increase in inventory. And so, in today's video, I just want to talk about just understanding the economic factors that are playing its role. What does that mean for you as a wholesaler? Can you still make money? Should you still wholesale real estate? Or what are some different pivots that you can take right now in your real estate wholesaling business? Now, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and comment down below if you have any questions. So, just looking at different articles, you can see the headlines. Mortgage rates tick up after strong April report. I'm reading on Redfin. Permits to build U.S. apartments drop below pre-pandemic levels. Monthly housing costs hits an all-time high amid economic uncertainty, keeping buyers on the sideline. Monthly mortgage payments are falling in 12 of the most popular U.S. metro. A seller still wants $39,000 more than the typical buyer is willing to pay. And home prices are falling in 11 of the 50 most populous U.S. metros. So those are some of the headlines that you see coming out in the news. And there's a lot of different things happening. There are fears because of tariffs. Tariffs are inflationary, so it's driving up prices of different things. And businesses and consumers are just hesitant on, okay, should I buy a big house when my other necessities are increasing in price? Maybe I should just stay renting. Or even if I rent, my rents are going up. Costs are increasing, and so people are more strapped on their cash, and they're more hesitant of buying that new property that you may wholesale to a cash buyer. And cash buyers understand this. They understand, okay, I need to get the homes at this price in order to sell it at that price. I was actually talking to a developer, and he said that it's been a struggle for him to sell his homes, and he's trying to sell homes in the $600,000-$700,000 range, and so they're not selling. And so he said, from now on, I'm just going to make houses right at $399 because he understands the market, and so his buy price in the areas that he's investing has to be adjusted. And so that's one thing that you can take into account when you're looking for properties for cash buyers. You have to look at areas that may not be the hottest areas, but it's not a unsafe area at the same time. Where they can get land for cheap or they can get houses for cheap, renovate it, and then sell it back on the market. So pivoting that is very important. And you can go on different websites like PropStream or whatever you pull your data from in order to segment your buy price or the value of the home. Instead of looking for homes over 500,000, look between 50,000 and 300,000. So you can stick to that range because those houses will always sell, especially if it's done correctly. It doesn't even have to be the most updated, as long as they have decent flooring, paint, cabinets, fixtures and finishes. They will sell especially if it's under 400, under 350, under 300. Those houses fly off the shelves. So the other thing with just navigating wholesaling real estate is that there are more regulations coming through the pipeline. Now, people are becoming more strict on what wholesalers should do, how do they disclose their information, how do they disclose that they're not necessarily the buyer for a particular property, and also that another party is involved, right? They're selling this contract over to another cash buyer, and so some states and counties and cities are requiring license in order for you to wholesale real estate. So that may be one area that you need to consider if right now is the right time to wholesale real estate. But I can tell you what I believe. I don't think any of that is going to change. I don't think they're going to push back or hold back regulations in Tennessee or in other areas. Recent news was about Tennessee. I could talk about that more in another video, but these regulations are here to stay, right? Even if they stop it right now, I don't think these cities are going to revert back to their original ways. So that's just something that you have to consider if you're wholesaling in those cities or counties or states. And so, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty with the economy, with real estate. Most people now are predicting a recession, right? We actually had a negative quarter this year. For the first quarter was a negative GDP quarter. And what constitutes a recession is two consecutive negative GDP quarters. So if we have another negative GDP this quarter, then that will count as a recession. And so with a recession, you can make money as a wholesaler. Don't get me wrong, because people will still try to sell their house. They'll just lower their price. They understand, okay, there's a lot of uncertainty. Let me sell this house. Or we may get into a stagflation area where prices are high, but at the same time, the demand doesn't match that. But the prices can't go low because businesses will lose money. And so what happens? A lot of businesses, they just keep their home prices high. They just keep their products high, especially if it's products that we need, like toilet paper, right? Or food, or all these other things. Now, there are some things in the economy that we may not need, like going on vacations, or handbags, or different stylish clothing, especially all these clothing that come from another country. Maybe just your basic clothing store, wherever that is, getting an inexpensive shirt, inexpensive pants will go a long way. In regards to wholesaling real estate, I do think it can still work out, because I know for me in 2020, when the pandemic happened, that was technically a recession, right? It was a slowdown in the economy, but even then, I was still able to do deals. And for me personally, I found my experience better during those times, because sellers were more willing to negotiate and to go lower on their price. And buyers, they have the mindset that, okay, people are fearful. This is our time to buy. A lot of investors, some investors are still fearful and more hesitant, but you just got to get them at the right price. And so that's an opportunity to invest and to work even harder in your wholesaling real estate business. Now, the other drawback is that what I was talking about earlier, if there's stagflation, right? If you come across sellers, but they're not budging on price no matter what, even though you're all like, look at these metrics, look at the economy, the economy is falling, they still may not sell their house at a price that's reflective of what's happening in the economy, right? They may be still stuck on those 2021, 2022 home prices. And so, like I said, like in that other head article that Redfin put out, that sellers are still demanding $39,000 more, I believe. Let me check. $39,000 more than what buyers are willing to pay. And so all of these play a role, even as wholesalers, right? Because I know I'm talking more on a macro level, talking about the sentiment of consumers as a whole, but that plays a role on us as we're working in real estate, whether you're flipping, holding rentals, or just wholesaling real estate. People are affected by the economy and what's happening, and so that can play a role into whether or not they sell you a home at a certain price. But overall, I do think you can still wholesale, but you just got to take into account. Okay, there might be a slowdown in the economy. There may be more regulation, but you can still do it. You just have to understand. Okay, which are the best methods to reach people, and how can I make myself stand out? And also, you can't go under contract if it's a high price. Like, don't try to bake appreciation into your contracts, because you have to bank that, okay, home prices might even stay flat or go down a little bit. I think it may stay flat. I don't see it going down much, but you just have to bake that into your offer price. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you had any questions, please like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later.